The Wanderer probe drifted silently through the darkness of space. It was Earth's first attempt to reach beyond the solar system. No one expected much from the small craft. It carried simple messages, basic information about humans, and scientific instruments. Earth's scientists just wanted to see how far it could go. On the probe's third year of travel, it crossed an invisible line. The line marked the edge of the Galactic Hegemony's territory. The hegemony had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. They controlled 300 star systems. They had never heard of Earth. The probe's signal was detected by a hegemony patrol ship. The aliens were surprised. They had not expected to find new intelligent life in this area. They tracked the signal back to its source. They found Earth. 3 months later, a large hegemony ship arrived at Earth. It was sleek and silver with strange glowing symbols on its hull. It parked in orbit and sent a message to Earth's governments. The message was simple. We come in peace. We wish to welcome you to the galactic community. The nations of Earth scrambled to prepare. They chose Captain Ji-Woo Kim to lead the welcome team. She was calm, smart, and had a good sense of humor. She and 5 other humans waited at the International Space Station for the aliens to arrive. The hegemony sent 7 representatives. They were tall and thin with pale blue skin and large eyes. They wore complex suits that hummed with technology. They moved slowly and carefully in the station. "Welcome to Earth," said Captain Kim. "We are honored by your visit." The lead alien, who called himself Diplomat Tool, bowed slightly. "We are honored to welcome you to the Galactic Hegemony. We have ruled the stars for 10,000 years. Our empire spans 300 systems." Captain Kim smiled politely. "That's impressive. We've only been to our moon and sent some robots to nearby planets." The aliens looked at each other. They seemed confused by her casual response. They had expected awe or fear. "Your gravity is extremely high," said one alien scientist. "How do you survive in such conditions?" This is normal for us," said Kim. She jumped lightly to demonstrate. The aliens flinched. "And the radiation levels on your planet are dangerous," said another alien. "You have no shields." "We've adapted to our sun," said Dr. Park, one of the human scientists. "Our skin produces melanin to protect us." The aliens seemed disturbed by this information. They whispered among themselves in a language the translation computers couldn't understand. Diplomat Tool cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should discuss terms of your entry into the hegemony. All planets must follow certain rules." "What kind of rules?" asked Captain Kim. "Travel restrictions, technology limits, resource quotas, standard procedures for lesser species." The humans looked at each other. No one liked the sound of lesser species. "We'd need to discuss any agreements with our governments," said Kim. "Earth has many nations and we make decisions together." "You are divided?" asked Tool, surprised. "How do you accomplish anything?" "We manage," said Kim with a smile. "We're quite resourceful." "Indeed," said Tool. He reached into a pouch and pulled out a small crystal sphere. "This is a gift. It is a communication device. It is 10,000 years old, made with technology your people cannot understand." Kim took the sphere carefully. "Thank you, it's beautiful." As she examined it, her thumb pressed a small button. The sphere lit up, projected a hologram of star systems, and then made a small cracking sound. A tiny piece broke off in Kim's hand. "King," aliens gasped in horror. "I'm so sorry," said Kim. "I didn't mean to break it." "Impossible," said one alien. "That material is stronger than any metal." "How did you break it with just your fingers?" asked another, backing away slightly. "I didn't use much pressure," said Kim, confused. "Here, let me fix it." "No," said Toll, quickly taking back the sphere. "We should return to our ship. We need to reconsider our approach." The aliens hurried back to their shuttle. The humans watched in confusion as they departed. Later, in the hegemony ship, Toll reviewed the data with his team. "These humans are dangerous," he said. "They live on a death world, high gravity, high radiation. Their bodies are incredibly strong, and they show no fear of us or our technology." "What should we do?" asked his assistant. Send a full assessment team, said Tull. We need to know exactly what we're dealing with, and send a message to the council. They need to know about Earth. As the ship pulled away from Earth, Captain Kim sat with her team drinking coffee. That was weird, she said. Did anyone else think they seemed afraid of us? They did leave in a hurry, said Dr. Park. Just because you broke their little toy? I barely touched it, said Kim. She looked out the window at the stars. I wonder what they're really like out there in space. She didn't know it yet, but Earth had just made a powerful impression on the galaxy, and it wasn't what the hegemony had expected at all. 3 weeks after the first contact, a new hegemony ship arrived at Earth. This one was larger, with more complex technology visible on its surface. It carried 20 alien scientists, all experts, in different fields. Their mission was to study humans and determine if they were a threat. Earth's government selected Dr. Taeho Park to lead the Human Welcoming Committee. Dr. Park was a calm, thoughtful man with degrees in biology and anthropology. He greeted the aliens at a special facility built just for this purpose. Welcome to Earth, said Dr. Park with a warm smile. We are ready to show you our world. The lead alien scientist, who called herself Researcher Miv, nodded stiffly. She was taller than the others, with skin that shifted between blue and green depending on the light. We appreciate your cooperation. Our assessment must be thorough. Of course, said Dr. Park. What would you like to see first? We would like to observe your daily activities, said Miv. Normal human behavior. And so began 2 weeks of the strangest cultural exchange in human history. The aliens followed humans everywhere, recording everything with small floating devices. They seemed confused by almost everything they saw. On the 3rd day, Dr. Park took them to a local park where people were exercising. A group of teenagers were climbing a rock wall without safety gear. An old woman was doing yoga on one leg. A man was jogging with a heavy backpack. Why do they do these things? Asked Miv, watching the climbers with wide eyes. Are they being punished? Dr. Park laughed. No, they're having fun. Humans enjoy physical challenges. Fun, repeated another alien scientist named Luro. This is entertainment? Later that day, they visited a restaurant where a spicy food competition was happening. Contestants were eating extremely hot peppers, sweating and laughing. The aliens were horrified. They are consuming toxins, gasped Miv. For what purpose? Again, for fun, explained Dr. Park. The burning sensation triggers endorphins. Some people enjoy the feeling. Your species deliberately causes itself pain. For pleasure? Asked Luro, making notes quickly. Fascinating. The aliens requested to run physical tests on volunteer humans. Earth's governments agreed, with strict rules about safety and consent. The tests were conducted in a specially built laboratory. The first test measured strength. A human soldier named Jin Ho easily lifted weights that made the aliens' instruments malfunction. Impossible, muttered Miv. The gravity on your world cannot produce such results. The endurance tests were even more shocking to the aliens. Humans ran on treadmills for hours without stopping. They held their breath underwater for minutes at a time. They recovered quickly from minor injuries. Your pain tolerance is disturbing, said Luro after watching a woman calmly receive a vaccination shot. Our species would require sedation for such a procedure. Really? Asked Dr. Park. It's just a small needle. The aliens exchanged worried glances. On the 10th day, something unexpected happened. One of the younger alien scientists, Kev, was talking with a human engineer about spacecraft design. The human mentioned Earth's experimental fusion engines. Fusion? Said Kev, surprised. You have working fusion technology? For about 15 years now, said the engineer. Still improving it, though. Kev seemed excited. But that's remarkable. The hegemony has been using the same fusion design for 2,000 years. We simply maintain the ancient technology. 2,000 years without improvements? The engineer looked shocked. But why? Innovation is discouraged, said Kev quietly. The council believes stability is more important than progress. Before Kev could say more, Miv interrupted the conversation. She pulled Kev away, whispering angrily, in their language. That night, Dr. Park was called to an emergency meeting with Earth's leaders. Intelligence agencies had been monitoring the aliens' communications. They had discovered something concerning. They're afraid of us, said the Secretary General. Their weapons technology is centuries behind ours. They've been using the same designs for thousands of years. Dr. Park thought about all he had observed. They seem to value stability over everything else. Their society must be very different from ours. The next morning, Miv announced that the assessment team was leaving earlier than planned. We have gathered sufficient data, she said stiffly. The Council will contact you regarding your status in the galaxy. As they prepared to leave, Dr. Park noticed that Kev was missing. Where is your colleague? He asked. Kev has been reassigned, said Miv coldly. He spoke out of turn. After the aliens left, Earth's governments met again. Intelligence reports suggested that the hegemony's final assessment had classified humans as a potential existential threat. What do we do now? Asked one world leader. We prepare, said another. But we don't show fear. Dr. Park looked out the window at the night sky. They think we're dangerous because we're different, because we climb walls for fun and eat spicy food and keep improving our technology. What do you think will happen next? Someone asked him. I think they'll try to control us, said Dr. Park. And I think they'll be very surprised when they find out they can't. The Galactic Hegemony Council met in their Great Hall. It was an ancient room with tall columns and glowing symbols. 300 alien representatives sat in tiered seats, whispering nervously to each other. The topic that caused such worry: humans. The assessment reports are troubling, said High Counselor Vex. He was old, even by hegemony standards, with pale skin that had turned almost white with age. These humans live on what we would consider a death world. They are stronger than they should be. They constantly seek out danger for enjoyment, and they continue to develop new technologies at an alarming rate. What do we do about them? Asked another counselor. We must bring them under control, said Vex. All new species must be properly integrated into the hegemony. We have maintained peace for 10,000 years through careful management of technology and resources. The Council voted to establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth. They would send representatives to explain how humans must adapt to fit into galactic society. Meanwhile, on Earth, governments worked together to create the Space Diplomatic Corps. They chose Ambassador Hyunwoo Lee to lead the first delegation. He was smart, patient, and had a good sense of humor, qualities they thought would be useful when dealing with aliens who seemed so serious. Remember, the Secretary General told Lee, we want peace, but not at the cost of our independence or our way of life. Lee nodded. I understand. I'll be diplomatic but firm. The hegemony proposed a neutral meeting place, a space station orbiting Proxima Centauri, the closest star to Earth's sun. Both sides agreed. Earth sent its fastest ship with Ambassador Lee and his team of 12 diplomats and scientists. The station was beautiful, a spinning ring of silver and glass. Inside, the artificial gravity was set slightly lower than Earth normal. Uncomfortable for humans, but still too heavy for most of the aliens. Ambassador Lee met High Diplomat Zul in the main conference room. Zul was tall and thin, like all hegemony. Representatives with deep blue skin and large, thoughtful eyes. Welcome, Ambassador, said Zul. We are pleased to begin the process of integrating Earth into the hegemony. Lee smiled politely. Thank you for hosting us. However, I should clarify that we're here to establish friendly relations, not to discuss integration. Earth maintains its independence. Zul blinked slowly. All civilizations within hegemony space follow hegemony rules. This is how we maintain peace. We're certainly interested in peace, said Lee, but Earth has its own rules and traditions. The first 3 days of talks did not go well. The hegemony representatives kept presenting lists of restrictions. No expanding to new planets without permission, no developing certain technologies, strict limits on spacecraft size and weapons. On the 4th day, during a tour of the station, Lee noticed something interesting. The station's technology was beautiful but old. When he asked questions about how things worked, the aliens had memorized instructions but little understanding. "How long have you used this type of engine?" Lee asked an engineer. "About 4,000 years, the alien replied. "It was designed during the Third Age of Harmony." "And no improvement since then?" The engineer looked confused. "Why would we change perfection?" Later that day, Lee's science officer, Dr. Jin, made an even more interesting discovery. She had been comparing notes with a hegemony scientist. "Their technological advancement is highly specialized but lacks innovation," she told Lee privately. "They've been using the same basic designs for everything for thousands of years. They don't invent new things, they just maintain what their ancestors built." Armed with this knowledge, Lee changed his approach at the next meeting. "Let me tell you about Earth's history," he said to Zul and the other representatives. 300 years ago, we traveled by horse. 200 years ago, we built the first automobiles. 100 years ago, we flew the first airplanes. 50 years ago, we reached our moon. Last year, we developed a new type of fusion engine that's 40% more efficient than the previous design. The aliens looked at each other in alarm. "Such rapid advancement is dangerous," said Zul. "It leads to instability." Lee smiled. "For us, change is normal. Progress is expected. Every generation builds on what came before. That's why we can't accept your technology restrictions." "But you must," said another diplomat. "All species in the hegemony follow the same path." "Perhaps that works for you," said Lee kindly. "But it won't work for humans." That evening, Lee was surprised when a young alien diplomat named Tyr asked to speak with him privately. "Not all of us agree with the old ways," Tyr whispered. "Some of us, especially the younger species who joined the hegemony more recently, admire your human adaptability. The Council fears you because you represent change, and change threatens their power." "What do you suggest?" asked Lee. "Be patient, but don't give in. There are other species who might become your allies, not just the hegemony leadership." The next morning, Zul presented a new list of demands, including strict limits on human expansion beyond their solar system. Lee listened politely, then laughed, a warm, friendly sound that nonetheless made the aliens uncomfortable. "I'm sorry," he said, "but humans won't be contained. It's not in our nature." The meeting ended without agreement. As Lee returned to the Earth ship, he knew the relationship with the hegemony had just become more complicated, but also more interesting. Zenith was Earth's pride and joy. The massive colony ship carried 10,000 people and everything they would need to build humanity's first settlement on a planet orbiting Alpha Centauri. Captain Songmi Kang stood on the bridge, watching Earth grow smaller through the view screen. "All systems normal, Captain," reported her first officer. "We'll reach Alpha Centauri in 14 months. Songmi nodded. "Good. Let's make history." What she didn't know was that 6 hegemony agents had infiltrated the ship during its construction. They were members of the Purity faction, hardliners, who believed that humans needed to be stopped before they spread across the galaxy. 3 days into the journey, alarms blared throughout the ship. Songmi rushed to engineering, where Chief Engineer Hockman was studying a display with concern. "Someone sabotaged the main reactor," he explained. "The cooling system is failing. We have maybe 6 hours before it melts down." Songmi's face hardened. "Can we fix it?" "Not with any parts we have on board," said Hockman. "The damage is too specific. Someone knew exactly what they were doing." "Options?" Hockman thought for a moment. "We could try to rebuild the cooling system from scratch. It won't be pretty, but it might work." "Do it," ordered Songmi. The engineering team worked frantically. They stripped materials from non-essential systems. They used tools in ways they weren't designed for. They improvised and problem-solved like only humans could. Meanwhile, Songmi ordered security to search the ship. In a storage compartment near the damaged reactor, they found 2 hegemony aliens hiding. "Why?" Songmi asked them in the ship's holding cell. "Why try to kill 10,000 innocent people?" "Your kind spreads like a disease," hissed one alien. "You change everything you touch." The Council was weak to allow you to build this ship. You're not working for the Council, are you? Songmi realized. You're rogues. The aliens said nothing, but their silence was answer enough. In engineering, Hakmin was directing the final connections of the makeshift cooling system. This shouldn't work, muttered his assistant. We're using parts from the kitchen refrigeration system to cool a fusion reactor. Sometimes you have to improvise, said Hakmin with a tired smile. Ready? Activate it. To everyone's relief, the jury-rigged system hummed to life. The temperature in the reactor began to drop. It's working, shouted one engineer. The team cheered. With the immediate danger past, Songmi focused on finding the other saboteurs. Security teams searched the ship deck by deck. They found the remaining 4 aliens trying to access the navigation systems. During questioning, Songmi learned something interesting. The aliens weren't just fringe extremists. They were connected to high-ranking officials in the hegemony government, and they revealed that the hegemony itself was not as unified as it pretended to be. The old species control everything. One saboteur admitted after hours of questioning. They keep the rest of us dependent on them. Some of us have been part of the hegemony for thousands of years but are still treated as lesser. Songmi recorded everything. Then she made a bold decision. Rather than turning back to Earth, she would continue the mission. But first she sent a message home, transmitting all the evidence they had gathered about the assassination attempt and the hegemony's internal conflicts. Earth's governments released the information publicly, broadcasting it not just to their own people, but to every communication channel they had discovered that reached other civilizations. The recording spread rapidly through the galaxy. The Hegemony Council was furious and embarrassed. They denied any involvement in the sabotage, blaming it entirely on the Purity faction, but the damage was done. Their image of perfect control had been shattered. Within days, Earth received messages from representatives of 7 different alien species. All had been part of the hegemony for centuries or millennia. All expressed admiration for how humans had thwarted the sabotage using improvised technology. All hinted that they might be interested in closer relations with Earth, independent of the hegemony. The hegemony responded with threats. They announced the mobilization of their Grand Armada, a fleet of warships that had not been deployed, in full for 3,000 years. The Armada would demonstrate the consequences of defying the established order of the galaxy. Earth's intelligence agencies went to work, gathering information about this supposed Armada. What they discovered was surprising. Most of the ships are ceremonial, reported the intelligence director to Earth's Security Council. They look impressive but have minimal actual combat capabilities. Their weapons technology is ancient. They rely on numbers and intimidation, not effectiveness. So if it came to a real fight, began one council member. It wouldn't be much of a fight, finished the director. Their biggest advantage is that they have more ships, spread across more systems. But ship to ship, we're centuries ahead of them. As the Hegemony Armada slowly gathered, taking months to assemble due to its size and the distances involved, Earth continued to build allies. Captain Songmi's colony ship reached Alpha Centauri on schedule, the first human outpost beyond. The solar system began construction. The galaxy was changing, and humans were just getting started. The diplomatic hall on Neutral Station sparkled with light from a dozen different star systems. Representatives from 23 species gathered to sign the charter of the Free Systems Alliance. Ambassador Hyunwoo Lee stood at the center, watching as each delegate added their mark to the document. Today marks a new beginning for all our peoples, he said when everyone had signed. Earth may be new to the galactic community, but we believe that all species deserve freedom and respect. 7 former hegemony members had joined Earth in this new alliance. Most were younger species, admitted to the hegemony within the last 1,000 years. All had grown tired of the strict control and lack of innovation that the ancient ruling species demanded. The Hegemony Council was furious. High Counselor Vex called an emergency session. This cannot stand, he told the assembled representatives. The humans have existed in our awareness for less than 2 years, and already they threaten the stability we have maintained for 10 millennia. They must be stopped before more systems defect. What do you propose? Asked another counselor. We have assembled the Grand Armada. We will give the humans and their allies one chance to dissolve this free alliance and return to proper hegemony, oversight. If they refuse, we will show them the consequences of defiance. The hegemony sent their ultimatum. The Free Alliance had 10 Earth days to disband or face military action. President Min Ji-yoon of Earth called an emergency meeting with military and diplomatic leaders. Admiral Sun Ho, head of Earth's Space Force, presented their options. We could fight them, he said. Our ships are faster and more powerful than theirs, but they have numbers and many systems would suffer in a prolonged conflict. What about diplomacy? Asked the president. Ambassador Lee shook his head. The old species on the council won't listen. They're too afraid of change. Then we need to speak to everyone else, said President Yoon, not just the council. The next day, Earth released detailed technical specifications showing the actual capabilities of both Earth's defense forces and the hegemony's Grand Armada. The information was broadcast on all frequencies across the galaxy. It showed, clearly and factually, how outmatched the hegemony truly was. We don't want war, President Yoon said in a message that accompanied the data. But we will not surrender our freedom or the freedom of our allies. The galaxy is big enough for all of us to follow our own paths. The reaction was immediate. Across hundreds of worlds, ordinary citizens of the hegemony saw the truth for the first time. Their leaders had been lying about their military power. The technology they depended on was thousands of years old. And humans, these newcomers, had already surpassed them. On the hegemony capital world, protests began. Young members of the old species demanded change. Newer species called for reform. Even members of the military questioned whether they should follow orders to attack. 3 days before the deadline, a group of mid-level hegemony officials contacted Earth secretly. Help us change things, they pleaded. The old council must step down. We need new ideas, new blood. We've been stagnant for too long. Ambassador Lee worked day and night with these reformers. Together, they planned a peaceful transition of power. When the deadline arrived, instead of war, there was a revolution, but one without violence. The old council simply found they had no one left who would enforce their will. 6 months later, a new Galactic Council convened. It included representatives from both the reformed hegemony and the Free Alliance. For the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy had a truly representative government. Humans quickly developed a reputation throughout the galaxy. Other species called them the Laughing Warriors, respected and feared for their casual approach to dangers that terrified others. Human innovations began to spread, improving life on hundreds of worlds. At the same time, humans learned from the ancient wisdom and art of the older species. On a park on the new Joint Council headquarters, 2 groups of children played. One group was human, from the Earth Embassy. The others were children of various species from across the galaxy. The alien children watched in amazement as the human children climbed trees and ran races. The human children were fascinated by the beautiful songs and complex puzzles the alien children shared. Ambassador Lee and Tyr, now a senior representative from the reformed hegemony, watched them with satisfaction. They are the future, said Tyr. They will grow up together, learning from each other. Their galaxy will be better than the one we knew. That's the point of progress, said Lee with a smile. Each generation builds on what came before and improves it. We feared change for so long, admitted Tyr. We thought stability meant keeping everything the same forever. And now? Now we understand that true stability comes from adaptation, from finding balance between the old and the new. Tyr looked at the human with genuine respect. Perhaps we needed you to laugh at us a little to help us see that. Lee chuckled. Well, humans are good at laughing, and at finding new ways forward. I think between your wisdom and our innovation, the galaxy has a bright future ahead. Above them, ships from dozens of worlds moved peacefully through the sky, each following its own path among the stars.